Hello world, this is the full moon solstice call. How are you doing? I'm going to make sure my astrologist is not having any difficulties. Log in. Hello, Abby, are you there? Dylan, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Amazing, back online.
All right, how
All
are you?
right.
Good.
I think Abby is with us. I just
She's going to be listening and tuning in and sending her vibrations to
Oh,
us.
perfect. Abby, love you. Okay,
She's
give
the
me one
sweetest
moment.
person ever. She's such a sweet soul. I'm just going to tell you how much I love you, Abigail, now that you are on the phone or on the Zoom call.
Abby's squared right now, so I feel like
Abby, this is two Abbies right now
two
because
Abby's.
Gail and Abigail.
I just give me 1 minute, Dylan. I just need to make sure this one person wants the Zoom, so I'm just gonna go give it to her, okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, this is cool.
Hey.
Dylan, can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh my god, wait. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
You
you.
can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I didn't know that you would be able to hear me.
Isn't that fun?
I should probably go in a different room because there are lots of people around me, and I don't want them to distract y'all.
I'm so thankful that you are here, and you know you were there on February 12th, 2017, right? Like that first radio thing that we did in winter.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Girl,
Have you been doing this?
I love this. I've been doing these.
You've been doing these? I didn't even know. I haven't talked to you in so long. Wait, I need to go away.
Okay. Yeah.
You can't. Can you hear my background noise?
No, you're okay.
Okay, that's probably fine then. If you do hear noise like low male voices talking or techno, let me know. I can go in a different room.
Okay. I so appreciate you being here. I've been waiting to talk about this full moon since I knew it was coming. Literally, like
Yes.
this is a serious full moon. This is a Libra full moon. But it is more than that because the axis that Libra is on, it's 0 degrees Libra. And it's actually crazy because 0 degrees like makes a serious pronunciation, but we'll wait for Gail to get back before we get started. But it's super, super
Oh my god, her name is Abigail too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm very excited. Is she an astrologer?
So she does a lot with energy work. So she has her Reiki certification that she's working on, and she does like tarot. So she's gonna be doing a tarot spread to get us kicked off.
Dope.
Yeah, so it's like one of
Have you two been like working on this together as a project for a while?
Gail and I have been partners in transformation for about 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Isn't that fun? Yeah.
Yeah. You have a beard and a mustache. You look great. You look so like you're growing.
Yes, I am a growing boy, and it's happening in real time.
Growing boy.
Yeah. Super fun.
Can you hear those sounds?
Vaguely, that's not something that's a problem though. It's a perfect environment. Hey, you're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Abby. It's so nice to meet you.
Hi. It's nice to meet you too. We have the same name.
It's special
Except
to
you go by
Abigail here. I go by Abigail.
Yes.
Yes. Nice to meet you.
Okay, cool. Same.
You do?
Nice to meet you too. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to talk about. Yeah, I do. I go by Abigail.
Wow. Dylan, you can't have to stop calling her Abby. I'm sorry, but as a fellow Abigail, although she'll never correct you because she's probably kind-hearted, her name is Abigail, not Abby.
No, either just fine, but when I introduce myself, it's Abigail.
Yeah, same here. Hey, Amanda.
Hey, Amanda.
Hey.
Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. It's officially time for the full moon call.
Yes.
All right, who's excited?
Me.
Me.
Hey.
Hi, Oscar. Oscar's tuning in all the way from overseas in the UK. Oscar's here as well. Say hi to Oscar, everyone. He's down at the bottom, at least on my list of screens.
Wait, doesn't that make it like 12 a.m. or am I off 6 hours?
I don't know, but Oscar is somebody who thinks a lot about astrology, and he's going to learn today, like we all are, what this full moon means for us. And it's one of the most exciting things for me to be able to be sitting here and talking about this full moon. Hey, Oscar. Because this is, I was just telling Abigail, this is a Libra full moon, and we're talking about 0 degrees Libra. Okay, so like when something is in the 0th degree, if that's a word, if that is the word that we can describe to use this, that means that it is especially significant because it is fresh and it's brand new in that sign. So Gail and I are going to kick this off a little bit by just starting with some ritual practice. We're going to go into a little bit of that. You want to open it up for us, Gail?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait,
So,
do you go by Gail now?
oh, Becca.
That's so cute.
You know, people called me Gail all through college and a little bit after college in Boston, but it's actually, I don't really go by that anymore. But yes, if there's anyone from Colgate that joins this call, I will definitely be referred to as Gail, so be ready.
Oh my God, sorry to interrupt. That is just so cute.
Okay, so it also sounds like a grandmother's name, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna invite everyone to just quiet down for a moment and close their eyes. And I do this in the beginning of all of my calls just to get everyone on the same page and just kind of allow the noise of the day, the noise of our expectations of what this is gonna look like to just fall away and drop in together. I just want to say thank you to joining this call tonight because Dylan has been such an astronomically important human in my life. Our first conversation 2 years ago was what I always describe to people as the beginning of my spiritual awakening. And I'm so happy to co-create with him now and to invite us all into this space. And because without all of you, we couldn't create the magic that we're looking to create tonight. So we're going to keep this brief tonight. It's going to be 30 minutes, and it will allow it to expand depending on what people need or what people found valuable. But to start off today, I just want to invite everyone into the ritual I always do on the full moon. So what I'm going to do now, and you can feel free to open your eyes and I can show you, is I've set up a little altar over here. I have some offerings because I had food in my bag. And some Russian candies from my roommate. I have some crystals. I got fool's gold. I've got some quartz over there. And the first thing I do is I always light sage. So this is also what I do before any time I do a Reiki healing. And I also use Palo Santo. I usually use both of them because sage is feminine and sage calls in this creative energy, while Palo Santo, on the other hand, is grounding. And so I usually combine both of them. But tonight, I'm actually feeling like lifting off the ground. Part of my ritual before we joined the call was actually to smoke a hit of weed, which I haven't been engaging in recently because I found it to just bring me up to the sky. But I want to be honest about how I really tap into this energy because it really has provided a beautiful plant medicine for me to step into what I feel is kind of the cycles of the moon guidance that exists always. We can always find out what energy is happening, and Dylan's going to help guide us through that. So just to close out this ritual, I also, as many of you know, serve kava at a bar in San Francisco. And kava is a root from the South Pacific Islands. It's calming on the central nervous system. It's very grounding. It's also super heart opening and a social stimulant. It's very magical. And through drinking kava, I've shifted away from drinking alcohol. It's really helped transform my life. And I do a little ceremony with everyone that I meet, really, if I have kava on me. Anytime I consume kava, this is how I do it. And so just to close out, looks like we have one more person joining. Welcome, Bari. We're closing out our ritual right now, so I just ask that you put yourself on mute for a moment, and we're going to finish this out, and then we welcome you to the space. Perfect timing though, because to close out, I'm gonna ask everyone to close their eyes. If everyone could just put themselves on mute. Dylan, that includes you, just for a moment. Just so we can kind of feel the silence together. Now in this silence, I invite you to bring to mind a question that you have in your life presently, a question that keeps coming up. Just hold it in your awareness. And I want you to feel into your body, and I want you to feel your spine grow tall. I want to feel your heart expand and open. And I want you to imagine right now there's a root system growing from your root chakra, and that your crown is opening up into the cosmos. And I ask you now to invite in your higher self, or whatever you use to tune in to the moment. Just call it in right now. Feel connected and ask yourself, what question keeps coming up? What's been coming up lately? Now, I invite you to listen to the ceremony, so I'm going to just do it. I'm not going to explain it. And if anyone has questions, feel free to ask me afterwards. So for those that just joined us, thank you. Cass, hey, I asked you to close, put yourself on mute for a moment. Amanda, keep yourself on mute. Cass, amazing. We're closing out our ritual right now. And what I'm doing is closing out with kava. So I'm going to do the ceremony now. Bula. Thank you for joining in the ritual to open today. And now I'm going to hand the mic over to Dylan to talk some astrology.
All right, everybody. So we're super excited about this full moon tonight. We're essentially looking at some very interesting activity in the sky. Okay, so also we are talking about the equinox right now. This is a time when daytime equals time all around the world. The spring equinox, typically on the 21st down there. So it does sort of roughly coincide with this epic super Libra full moon. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically the super full moon that is in Libra is on a ritual axis between Libra and Aries. And the reason why I say it's a ritual axis, and there are a number of people who talk about this, but it could also be known as an axis of transcendence. Basically, it is a polarity that is at play. And astrology is all about polarities, okay? So whether we're talking about Libra versus Aries, or, I don't know, Gemini and Sagittarius, generally they balance each other in certain ways. So Gemini, for example, is very much about sorting, collecting information, taking it in, intellectual versatility. Like, think of the PR kind of intern who kind of runs around and just gathers all sorts of different kinds of information and goes every which way and networks and etc. That's Gemini, okay? But then when you take Gemini into the other polarity, which is Sagittarius, then we're talking about synthesis. Then we're talking about making sense out of all that data that you gathered, okay? We're talking about putting it into a cohesive picture, a global philosophy, and some kind of wisdom. The ritual axis that we find ourselves on in this particular moment, you guys, and we're not only talking about the equinox, we're also talking about the astrological new year. We just made it through all 12 signs, and we're in Aries again. It's a very, very, very interesting time for alchemical regeneration. And what do I mean by that? So alchemical regeneration is the balancing of these polarities. It allows you to meet yourself in the middle so that you can find a common ground for moving forward from a space of empowerment. If Gail's asking, what is the question on everyone's mind? The question on my mind is, how can I be more? How can I be more of what I already was, at least for me personally, so I can continue to grow into a wider cosmos? Okay, so what's very interesting about this whole idea of the wider cosmos, in particular the ritual axis between Aries and Libra, is that if we were to say, just to use my other example, like Gemini is collecting information, Sagittarius is synthesizing it. Okay, so Aries is doing it on your own, Libra is doing it with another. Does that make sense? It's like Aries is fiercely independent, very bold, very courageous, existential sort of moment of really moving forward. I mean, Aries is the ram, think about it. It's all about kind of that forceful sort of energy. And this comes out in many different areas of life, whether we're talking about an Aries artist. I mean, Oscar's done work on looking at different roles that people play in the world and how does that correlate to their zodiac sign. So essentially, Libra and Aries, it's going to be, I'm just going to read you guys off my notes. So Aries, war, self, independence, competitive, leadership, the need to personalize. Those are all things associated with Aries, okay? That's the sign that the sun is in. Directly opposite to that is Libra, okay? Libra, peace, others, relationships, externalize, cooperative, partnership.
Yes.
Okay, so very, very, very interesting stuff going on here in the night sky. Basically, we've reached a point in our trajectory, you guys, where it's like we're at a crossroads. There's no in-between, the in-between is one that we are forging ourselves now, today, here through every single thing that we do. So you're asking, the question is, how does this apply to my life today? And people in astrology love to talk about love, money, success, all of that, right? So actually, I had this question at work today. I was explaining astrology to one of my colleagues, and he was saying, is it something that you can point to in your life and say, astrology was right at that time? And it's a really, really good question, and it brings up a lot of deeper philosophical inquiries. But I think my immediate answer was yes, of course. When Uranus transited my 4th house, I moved across the country. Yeah. Did I know that was happening while I was doing it? Not necessarily. But when I looked back on it, hindsight was more than 20/20. Hindsight was cosmic 20, if that's a thing. So what I'm trying to say is, you guys, we're in the middle of a very, very fascinating polarity, and I'm going to break this polarity down for you from an energetic perspective, and we have only got 15 minutes left, so I'm going to do it quickly, and I'm also going to do sign by sign in the next 15 minutes as well. Okay, so the thing to note about this polarity, and I'm a Libra, so I'm going to start with Libra sign here, is the sun is opposite the moon, like I just said, sun in Aries, okay, moon in Libra. And what we're talking about here is also a conjunction between the sun and Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, and I have a Rumi quote to share with you that connects directly to the theme of Chiron. The wound is where the light enters you. It's a very simple statement. The wound is where the light enters you. Okay, so what are we talking about with this full moon really? Really what we're talking about is healing some deep ancestral karmic data, some deep ancestral karmic patterning, some stuff that really we've been holding on to, you guys, okay? If there were ever a reason, if there were ever a time to just release and let go, if you use black tourmaline, this is a specimen I acquired. Black tourmaline is an etheric vacuum cleaner. It will take the material in your ether and clean it up for you, with you, by you, around you, through your circumstances. Okay, it's not this thing that literally does it. It's your mindset that this is co-created with you and around you. Okay, so the reason why I bring all this up, the reason why I go into ritual magic and I start with the ritual axis and I bring in black tourmaline is because this applies to every single one of us every single day. The kind of healing exercises that we choose to engage with, the way that we think about healing, and the way that we believe in our ability to heal. That is what this full moon is about.
The way that we think about healing.
I'm going to repeat it. So the way we think about healing, the way that we believe in our ability to self-heal and to heal others. And
the way that we believe in ourselves.
Yes, and our 100%. The way that we believe in ourselves and how we can be human acupuncture needles for the universe. That's really what we're talking about on this full moon call.
Can I just share the background on my phone right now?
Oh, wow.
Literally left-right brain integration, Dylan, which is all that I've been talking about recently. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say that what you're calling in right now, this balance, is exactly what I was envisioning in my mind as for how we need to be calling in our creative sides and calling in our structured sides and pulling them into one to synthesize, to create, to be.
Yeah. I mean, every single side is going to feel this healing creative energy and the particular qualities associated with the filter that is that sign.
So will you share the signs now?
Okay, we're going to do rapid fire, just in the interest of time. There's 12. So Libra, like I said, like when I just started, my notes that I wrote down before we got on the call, taking action, #relational distance. What do I mean by that? Okay, so the reason I said relational distance is because Venus, the ruling planet associated with Libra, the full moon's in Libra. Venus is the ruling planet associated with Libra, and it is in Aquarius. And Aquarius is known for, Oscar, we've talked about this, but Aquarius is known for that distance, right? The idea that you kind of keep things at an arm's length from a very interesting, inventive point, right? Because what you're doing is you're kind of looking at the world as an observer, as awareness itself, as this kind of thing that's out in front of you. But it actually is a very scientific inventor kind of sign. So jumping around a little bit here, like if Libra is about taking that distance and figuring out what is the role of partnership and healing that over time, Aquarius, okay? If you are an Aquarius and you're listening to this call, or if you find the archive somewhere, know that at this time, during this full moon, the activity in the sky is very, very, very heavily weighted towards themes of the second and third house. So in other words, your sort of ritual axis lights up that area, if you will. And for me, Libra, it's like 7th house. For Scorpio, it's 6th house. For Sagittarius,
you don't know what these houses are, Dylan.
Yeah, houses are areas of life, areas of your life where things.
What are the second and third houses then?
I'm going to go one by one. So with Libra, it's relationships and relational distance. Okay. With Scorpio, it's releasing ties related to home. Okay, because things are happening around home.
I'm a Scorpio and I'm moving as of yesterday. So yep, keep going.
Okay, and so then Aquarius, we're kind of talking about here is, I want to say something more, like I said, second house, third house. Second house is very much connected to human resources. So if you're an Aquarius, it's about what kind of attention do you pay, and what kind of distance do you create between the things that you need to be and feel yourself. That's what the second house is. It's human resources, but it's self-expression through those human resources. And what is the relationship between you expressing yourself and those material things? Sagittarius, very interesting time to be a Sagittarius. Chiron conjunct Sun, opposite Moon in house 5. And then also conjunct Mercury in Pisces in house 4, square Jupiter in Sagittarius in house 1. So just looking at the substructure of this Sagittarius breakdown, and I actually sent out an update for all my Sagittarius friends today over text message that I'm doing now bi-monthly. So if you want to be a part of that, let me know. And it's something that I'm doing basically to drop a pocket of light into your life. And you can subscribe. There's no charge associated with it. I wouldn't even say it's a subscription. All it is me going in and manually generating these messages to groups of people. So anyways, Sagittarius, like I said, healing your talents, your ability to understand that you are talented. 5th house is creative expression and talent and identity. How do you identify as somebody who is talented? If you're a Sagittarius during this full moon, do you have misperceptions, misguided healing notions about your talents? Like, that's a really good question. I would dive deep into the healing of your concept of talent for Sagittarius. For Gemini, I ran into a couple Geminis on the street today. My sister's a Gemini. I sent out the text to her. This woman was asking me, she said, because I said, happy full moon. I just went up to her and it was one of those things. And she responded and she was like, I'm a Gemini, what does it mean for me? And I was like, okay, well, it's a busy time, stay busy, but keep your head up. Don't forget that the moon is full. Because when the moon is full, what we can really, really do is expand our future concept. We can adopt a mindset of future presence. And if you are a Gemini, that is the message I have for you. House 10, house 11, future concept, envisioning. How can you envision the future before it actually happens? And how do you do that? You go to the headspace of your realized wish. You go to the feeling of your realized wish. Gail and I talk about this all the time. Okay, Leo. If you are a Leo during this full moon, you're going to find some matters that pertain to energy that is not necessarily your own coming up. Okay, and what do I mean? 8th house, a space of inheritance, a space of other people's money, psycho-spiritual thoughts. Okay, it's also about death. Stephen Forrest calls it sex, death, and the occult. This healing activity for you, which is associated with this full moon, is actually directly connected to house 8 and house 9. And it's kind of right in between the two houses, so I like to read both. I mean, I'm not somebody who does a lot with cusps. I really don't. When people say I'm on the cusp of two signs, I consider both. I'm not pulling into one category or the other based on the degree that is getting really technical. So anyways, if you're a Leo during this time, the energy that you're working with at this full moon, at this very current juncture, is likely inherited. And it's just, you've got to note that. You've got to take note of that, because that's okay. Ancestral material comes up. It's like the patterns that are within us are actually active through us because we are the patterns. Does that make sense?
We are the patterns.
We are the patterns. Okay, so Capricorn. Capricorn is a sign that has been on my mind left and right as of recently. Industry, okay? The business mindset, business smarts and smarter living are tied to Capricorn. And what do I mean by smarter living is conditioned notions of smarter living, the status quo for smarter living, the status quo for that business mindset of industry, and I just want to say structures of society and orders of achievement and hierarchy. If you are a Capricorn and you're listening to this, okay, the focus is very, very much about speaking, writing, teaching, thinking, and learning. In other words, the faculties of Mercury. So we find Mercury in Pisces in house 3, and Mercury strongly resonates with the themes of house 3, which is also the neighborhood. So if you're a Capricorn, you may run into your neighbor on the street and you may learn something from them in the next couple of days. That's a very mundane example. A higher level spiritual order example for Capricorn going through this full moon would be something along the lines of, you are going to learn how to be mentored or nurtured, or you will mentor or nurture somebody intellectually or academically or personally through again with some kind of smarter living, or even just advice, something as simple as advice. Another really important thing to note for Capricorn is that the sun is square Jupiter and Sagittarius in the 12th house. So spiritual themes are coming up for you around this full moon, like solitude and higher callings. Like, do you believe in the value of those things? Virgo, very interesting for Virgo. I say very interesting for every sign because I'm obsessed with astrology, but also because I think every sign is truly has its own stream of consciousness going on. Virgo, when I first started studying Virgo, it was all about the difference between judgment and discernment. So if you're a Virgo, it's constantly the oscillation between those two things. On the judgment side of things, you're saying yes, no, good, bad, right, wrong. On the discernment, you're picking out the thread that is going to complete your journey towards wholeness over time.
Yes.
And you're threading that through in this kind of vortex type consciousness situation. Anyways, where we find Chiron for you is in house 8, and then the conjunction with Mercury is in house 7. So thinking about the role that relationships play in your own personal transformation, Virgo. In other words, is a relationship a reflection of your inner growth, or does the relationship prompt that kind of inner growth? Again, Libra full moon, it's a hot button full moon for relationship topics. Virgo is going to feel that in a particular way, again, with this conjunction between the sun and Mercury in Pisces in house 7. Just to break it down briefly, Mercury is the mind. It's our analytical ability. It's sort of it's the messenger god in Greek mythology. Grecian astrology, there's a whole other thing going on there. It's very interesting to see Mercury in Pisces because thoughts kind of get watered down. They get a little murky. They get a little vague in Pisces. We all know we're experiencing Mercury retrograde at this current moment, but also many more throughout the course of the year. I always like to emphasize retrogrades are not bad. There's no inherent charge. The inherent charge is 0. But the only thing that ends up happening is that people will assign a charge to it because oftentimes they're projecting a displaced sense of value, personal value onto a cosmic rhythm, which is fine. Again, I'm not somebody who does a lot with causation. I do a lot more correlation when it comes to astrology. So in the interest of getting through all these guys, let's see, we've got Cancer here. Cancer, the key lesson with Cancer is not only nurturing others through your emotional sensitivity, but also opening yourself up to being able to receive that nurturing from other people. That is the crucial karmic thing that goes on with Cancer. Patricia Walsh writes a lot about this in her book, Understanding Karmic Complexes. Essentially what she's saying is that many, many, many Cancers give. But what they need to focus on and what they need to learn is how to open up and receive that loving kind of caring energy from others and the universe at large and a wider cosmos. It's career for you, Cancer. What is your emotional attachment to career? Okay, how do you build your career? What does the word career mean to you? In some definitions, career is just a wheeled vehicle that gets you from point A to point wherever. Okay, it's a sort of point in transition. It's very much career, it's very much project-based work, and it's very much travel, overseas travel. That would be something to emotionally explore during this full moon, is the patterning of that. So if you ever had wanted to make a leap and bound overseas, or if you'd ever want to do some kind of expedition, whether it's in your mind through literature, higher education, studying foreign language, this would be a very interesting time to sort of think on all of those things. Okay, Aries. Aries, this is a very much, I mean, Aries has been in a very interesting journey the last 2 weeks. With the new moon, I remember writing the text I wrote to my Aries friends, and it said something along the lines of stillness and that still small voice within. And that, you know why, this is a very 12th house, right? This is very 12th house. Like 12th house is solitude, higher callings, but it's also self-transcendence, right? And there's a spectrum in self-transcendence from escapism to things like prayer, visualization, meditation, yoga, escapism through alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. So whenever I see 12th house, I like to emphasize stillness, because it is in stillness that you are able to decide for yourself what that is, and how you literally go into a space of transcendence when you are able to meditate, for example. So Aries, it's that spiritual refinement. And I talk a lot about in the beginning, this whole idea of alchemical regeneration. And that's something that Aries is experiencing in particular on the level of that magic feeling. Okay, Taurus. For Taurus, like, wow, Taurus, you've been working with some kind of vision. Like when I looked at the chart for Taurus, the new moon, it was all 11th house, and 11th house is associates, allies, comrades, future planning. 11th house is a space of envisioning, looking to the future, like I mentioned earlier. And Taurus for you, that's where the wound is. So it's an inability to conceive of a future that is somehow more than you thought it already was, if that makes sense. It's like you get caught in these time loops with future planning, but the beauty of the cycle from the new moon to the full moon is that you can close that loop.
Yes.
You can harvest the wisdom. Yeah, you can harvest the wisdom. You can say like, okay, like I've been doing a lot of deep contemplation about my future, like as a Taurus. And guess what? Now, I wrote in the message this morning, now you hold a vision in the palm of your hands. And it is your choice and your chance, and you get to do something with that. Like, how cool is that, Taurus? Pisces, okay, so Pisces is self-expression. I would say there's something going on there around personality, character, and ego. Pisces, in a certain sense, is vibrating alongside Leo. I think of Leo very much to do with ego and self-presentation. And I also think of those signs as going together in a very interesting way. Leo having a lot to do with social responsibility, and Pisces having to do with spiritual counseling. And how do those two things go together? So that does cover all the 12 signs. I wanted to make sure in my notes that there wasn't anything else that I wanted to talk about. Gail did a really good job when we opened, I thought, of kind of just, and this is a personal thing for me as well, is like, what is the story you've been hiding? So to think about all these signs as containers for freedom, and all of these stories and all of these moments in our astrological record, which, by the way, astrology has a long history, and it's not just me. If you put all those things together, it is more feasible and easier to make a leap of perception. And this full moon, if there ever was one, and I'm saying this because I'm a Libra sun, Aries moon. Right now we have Libra moon, Aries sun. So this is my axis, you guys. This is my ritual axis. Like, this is what I know about. If there's something I know that's true, it is that we are at a crossroads. We are at a crossroads.
Wow. Okay, I'm just going to invite everyone and Dylan to take a moment of silence after that download. Maybe take a couple of breaths in and out, and close our eyes. Keep our spines very tall, and just allow all of that information to seep into your being. Remember, we have all 12 signs within us. Everything Dylan's sharing, although whatever is the sign that your primary rising, I don't even remember if that's correct. Dylan, please share if it is. Rising perhaps, but it always seems to be directly correlated to what's going on in my life. And I want to share this with everyone, because even though that's what maybe is the most prominent, everything is happening for us right now. And there's such a moment that we're being given to integrate all we've learned and to make better decisions for ourselves, and just to choose. Because when you create the container, as Dylan mentioned, that's where the freedom lies. When freedom is endless, then we see into possibility, we see into potential, we feel what it feels like to be embodied, to be in our flow, to know. And we know that's possible, but integrating those visions into our daily lives and allowing that answer to unfold, the how will never be able to be realized before it actually happens, because the universe's concept of how things are meant to unfold will always be better than your personalized self-concept of how things are meant to unfold. Because our concepts are based on our past brain wiring. And when we surrender to a chosen vision, to an answer, and we choose yes. Someone recently told me there's this, I think it's a Buddhist quote, and it says, there's only 3 choices we ever have to make in life. We 1, just make a choice and go with it. We 2, doubt the choice we went with and go back to another choice. We 3, then go back to the original choice. It's a loop. And we walk ourselves through this loop. And it's okay to do that when we're exploring, when we're stepping into new territory. As Dylan's mentioned, this is such an important time of leaping into a new dimension, of stepping into unfamiliar territory, of feeling where we feel powerful and creating more experiences around that. But then also simplifying the knowledge we receive when we make these transitions so other people can understand where we're at in our journeys. Because I feel like when we're able to communicate clearly, clear our collective throat chakra, perhaps, and we mention what's going on in our lives, then we find it to be relevant with the mirror that's standing in front of us, with the person that we randomly meet in our journey, our best friend from childhood, who's actually going through the same thing, maybe on a different dimension, but the same thing. So to close out today, I just want to invite you to silently sit with the other 9 individuals sharing space together right now. Sit with that question that's been on your mind, that story, and make a choice, a conscious choice, to shift the parts of that story that need shifting and to choose the parts of that story that are working for you.
I did have one last quote I wanted to share. This one is tying into the relationship kind of thing that I opened with about Libra. You know, whether we go at it on our own or whether we have another in our life. And the quote says, "The qualities we project onto others are likely ones that we have failed to integrate ourselves." So think deeply about this full moon, especially tonight before you go to bed. Just think about the qualities that you have failed to integrate. And failure doesn't mean bad or good. Literally, failure is just information to move in a different direction. So if you haven't integrated a quality and it's showing up in your life and you're projecting it onto somebody else saying, this person is so X, think twice, because what you likely said for that X is something that you are holding within. And it's something that needs to be released at this full moon. And guess what? If you don't do it tonight, there's a whole other full moon coming up next month.
You'll have another chance then.
So do it.
You can see if you can break the pattern next month.
So anyways.
Wow. Amazing. Well, thank you all for joining this first call. I hope that you found this valuable. I hope that you see how working together is always the answer, finding ways to synergize, finding ways to amplify. The last thing I want to share, I have a podcast called Unlocking Human Potential. And if I could sum up what's coming up right now for the collective from what I'm experiencing in the mirrors around me, is that we're going through this collective shift from scarcity into abundance, from looking at the world from a space of, I already have this, I already am this, from embodying and feeling into who we genuinely know we are deep down, who, you know, Dylan getting up on stage in front of, you know, millions of people sharing this knowledge that he just channels from another dimension, embodying that in our lives on the daily, embodying that abundance and releasing out that scarcity. So I call upon, to close this call today, us all to just ask ourselves, Where in our lives can we amplify the people around us, especially those who have similar passions? We're taught to compete. That is scarcity mindset. We instead need to collaborate and co-create. That's how we build this new paradigm together. Amazing.
Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you. We love you.
Happy full moon.
We're going to stay on for a moment if you have any questions, but feel free to drop if you need to.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for joining, Becca.
Bye.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Cass. Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, anyone, if you want to unmute at all, we can just talk. I mean, do you want to stop the recording, Gil?
Yeah, for sure.